Okay, I've turned off all of the bits and fucking bobs so I can record this and not have it sound like fucking asshole. But there we go. Okay. Hi. I'm back again. I've got my drink. Again, welcome to my house. This is my... You're kind of seeing my house from all angles, which is, I guess, good for you. Also, I'm sorry, I'm gonna turn on this fan. Why is this not working? Can you just work with me? There you go. Hopefully that isn't too distracting, but I literally... I need it. It's so fucking hot in here. It's been like 100 fucking degrees today. Okay. It is... I don't fucking know. 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m. on July 20th, 2026. I've just gotten done updating the mouse colony for the lab, and it was literally such a fucking nightmare. It's so stupid. Like, there has to be a better way of doing this, but I guess there fucking isn't. And this is the more, like, evolved modern way of doing things, too, which is just insane. But it takes forever. I have to, like, take a bunch of pictures when I'm down there, and then figure out how to fucking put it into the goddamn sheets, and it's literally just... It sucks dick and balls and cock and like, I hate it. It makes me so fucking mad. And then, yeah, I don't know, I just wanted to make another video, so that's why I'm here. I think this weekend I'm going to try to make, like, an actual, like, longer form video. Something that I've been kind of, like, thinking about lately is just kind of, like, the impermanence of life, and specifically a line from the Heike Monogatari, which is the tale of the Heike. It's a Japanese medieval text that tells kind of the tale of the fall of the Fujiwara clan. Is it the Fujiwara? The Taira? I always mix them up. But basically, there was a clan that was up the emperor's asshole, and then this clan basically falls and is taken over by a different clan. I believe the Minamoto. I think it's the Taira / Fujimoto versus the Minamoto. But I could be wrong. But I have the book here. This is a translation from McCullough, and I've read a little bit of it. It is... Yeah, I do quite like it. I haven't finished it. I need to finish it. But it's just... I don't know how best to show you this. But there's some nice, like, poems throughout it, and some nice, like, drawings throughout the text that are just kind of very random, but very, like, kind of cool looking. I don't know if you can see that. Hold on. I have to manually focus because I'm poor. But you can probably see, like, there's just some cool things in here. And the poems are really interesting as well. There's another text, or another Japanese panel. So it's just, I don't know, I really like it. But there's an anime that's kind of based on this as well, that I think might be a good way of kind of introducing this, not concept, but I mean, I think we all kind of know about it, but I think the Japanese think about it a lot more often, kind of like the impermanence of life, and just a kind of like weird feeling that kind of inspires this weird cognitive dissonance where many emotions exist at the same time. Sometimes it's like nostalgia, guilt for maybe not, like, living your life to the fullest. In certain moments, it can be like happiness, but you know that the moment is fleeting and that it won't last forever, and so you kind of get this kind of like sad feeling. There's a Japanese concept called Momo no Aware, MOMONOAWARE. Oh, it's like aware, but I don't know if it's translated aware, but it deals with that kind of feeling, that kind of like intermediate weird kind of feeling that you get when you kind of contemplate the fact that, like, your life is fleeting, and that every moment that you have, you know, really is insubstantial, and that other humans have existed the same way, and that you are going to be dead one day. Anyway, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, But there's a really good entrance to the Heike Monogatari, which is what I've just been kind of thinking about lately. There's a few translations, but I'll read you this one. The sound of the Gion Soja bells echoes the impermanence of all things. The color of the Sala flowers reveal the truth that the prosperous must decline. The proud do not endure. They are like a dream on a spring night. The mighty fall at last. They are as dust before the wind. And it's a really good, I don't know, it deals with that same kind of idea, you know? Like, I have a hard time sometimes because I feel like I exist in that place where I look at the world around me and it seems like we're all stuck doing such foolishness, you know? Running to and fro and trying to pay our bills and trying to make as much money as possible. But when you really take a step back and look at all of the people that have existed before us, the 10,000 or so generations of human beings that have preceded us being here, you know, how many of them were rich? Like, at most of those periods of time, there was an individual that was the richest in the world, just as there is right now. You know, Elon Musk, get fucked, dickhole. But in each one of the ages that have preceded us, there have always been people that are, like, rich or successful based on the amount of riches that they actually have. But in the long line of human beings, the ones that we remember are not the ones that were quote-unquote successful in their day and age, but they're the ones that had new ideas and brought something new to humanity, whether it was Alexander the Great and his conquests, or whether it was, you know, the Ptolemaic dynasty and its rule of Egypt, or the individual scientists and philosophers that have existed, you know, in Western thought. That's people like Plutarch and Cicero and Thucydides and Sappho and, you know, all of these different philosophers and individuals. They're the ones that we actually remember from the time periods in which they lived. And when we carry that wisdom into our own daily lives, when you see people around you flaunting their wealth and they maybe are judging you because you're walking around in clothes that, you know, are perhaps a little bit low class, like I do sometimes, it's funny because even though they deem themselves to be successful for whatever, and when I say that, I mean they have status in today's society, and status is linked to money, socioeconomic position, in some cases to education. You know, I work in a place with a high prevalence of PhDs, so there's a certain amount of arrogance that gets tied to that as well. Each one of these things overinflates kind of their ego, and I just find it funny and also, what's the right word? Disturbing? Like, I sometimes feel insane, because of how silly it is. Like, what do you bring to the table? If you and I were to sit down and have like an actual conversation, me and the white people in this neighborhood that have lots of wealth, what's actually in their minds that makes them worthy of having such praise in the hierarchy of man? You know, do we automatically assign you worth because you have money? You know, if that's true, then the opposite's also true. If you don't have any money, you have no intrinsic value. And if that's how we're judging humankind, then we've already kind of lost our humanity. And it's not a way that I frankly refuse to think of people that way. And so when I really think about it, and when it really gets down to it, if I were to sit down with these people and really dig into their minds and figure out, who are you? What do you actually believe about the world? Why do you believe what you believe? You know? Then whatever substance they want you to believe is there just falls away into nothing. And it's just crazy to me. Like, one good example, for instance, that I've been thinking about a lot lately is that there's been some drama in the lab. Long story short, there was just some beef between individuals in the lab and some external parties that caught wind of this beef, and it really just like led to the development of these two kind of like tribal camps that like, you know, not really two camps, it was really just like one camp that really just kind of like shit on this other person. And even now, I still feel kind of like a neutral party because I see where they're coming from. I do. And I see, you know, where their complaints have their origin. But there's a friction between me and this group of people because I refuse to go as far as they're going. And really what it boils down to is, what does it take for you to stop respecting somebody's humanity? You know? And for me, the only way that I'm going to stop respecting somebody's humanity and giving them kind of empathy and consideration, you know, and take kind of a more holistic view, like, yes, maybe they did X, Y, and Z, but they're still a person. They still require our due consideration of their humanity, like they're still human beings. You know, like I will still extend my sphere of consideration to this individual in an empathetic way. The only way for me to stop doing that is when you are subverting somebody else's humanity for your own gain. Because I think when you're subverting somebody else's humanity, you kind of also negate your own. I think we see examples of this in genocides are the most distilled and violent kind of example, where if you take the Hutus and the Tutsis, for instance, in the Rwandan genocide, even though both groups are human beings, and indeed every single person on this planet that is a Homo sapien, we are all human beings, it's easy for us to negate another group's humanity. In the case of the Hutus and the Tutsis, what it really came down to is the fact that there were deep historical animosities between the Hutus and the Tutsis, where the Tutsis had predominantly been a larger minority but had held significant power. The Hutus took offense to this, and rather than finding a different way to arbitrate this deep-seated anger and animosity, they instead turned to violence, and in order for them to inflict violence on a different group of people, they had to negate their humanity. And once you no longer think of people as human beings, you can do whatever you wish to them. It's a simple principle, but once you arrange human beings in a hierarchy, first of all, you set up the premises to be able to negate another person's humanity in that hierarchy by placing them below you. We see that in the United States right now, where white people have always been at the top of the hierarchy, white men have been at the apex of that hierarchy, and, you know, and then it goes blacks and then Mexicans. Really, it's white, Asian, black, Mexican. There's a little bit of nuance there where black women have... Is it black women? I read this statistic not too long ago, if I remember to put it here. But I was looking into this because I had a question as to whether or not Latino men made less money than white women. And in total, Latino men make far less money than Latino women, but that's because Mexican and Latino men are in much lower paying roles, because they represent kind of the bottom of American society, which is where they've been put. But I'll remind you that we were the fucking first ones here. This is not your America. You invaded this land and then killed off 95% of the population with disease, and then enslaved or killed the rest of them, of my ancestors. Just saying. If anyone needs to go get the fuck out of here, it's y'all that need to go back to Europe. Just saying. But that wasn't my point. But when you normalize for the same occupation, I believe women make 97 cents to every dollar a white man makes. So white women make like 97 cents to every dollar a white man makes, and then Latinos make 98. And I think it was black women or Latino women make significantly less than both of them. Where was I going with this? Right, yeah, but like our society right now is in a hierarchy, and political entities like the Republicans, like Donald Trump, are just like the Hutus did to the Tutsis, mining this deep-seated animosity that has historical relevance to the very foundation of the United States of America, and even further to the actual disintegration of and genocide of the people on North and South America. Like, if you really take a step back and think about what actually happened to this land 500 years ago, a few white settlers killed off half of humanity on 2 continents. That is essentially what happened. 95% of the population on 2 continents, 1/2 of the hemisphere of Earth, were killed off. At first with disease, and after that, well, you should know your history to kind of know how the fuck that actually happened. But we lost entire civilizations, like empires, kingdoms. We lost a lot. The equivalent would be basically if in the 1500s, during the height of the Renaissance, some random people landed in Europe and then killed off 95% of the population of Europe and then suppressed the languages of Europe, including getting rid of all Latin texts, suppressing Greek, burning libraries, and destroying basically whatever historical evidence or knowledge that we had in all of Europe during the Enlightenment, and then killing off 95% of the population of Europe at that time. If you can think about what that would actually mean, it would mean that we would have basically no foundation of Western history, Western philosophy, Western thought in general. That's the magnitude, the scale of what was lost in North and South America. When the Europeans came to what is now Mexico City, they said that it was more beautiful than cities in Europe, and that it definitely rivaled what they had built in Europe at the time. And this is Spain, one of the most rich kingdoms in Europe at the time. So my point in saying that is that the Republican Party is using these deeply held animosities in order to arrange American society into a hierarchy of race. And the reason that you do that is because you want to subvert the humanity of somebody else. In this case, the white people are trying to subvert my humanity and people that look like me, because they're afraid of losing power. So, I don't remember how I got to this conversation or into this idea, but it's been bothering me. The impermanence of life. Oh yes, and the silliness of everything, you know? Like, I think we get so busy playing these silly little roles, but the things that matter are beyond such banal human considerations, you know? Going to work and getting your coffee and things like this, like, they don't really matter. Like, what really cements you into the memory of mankind is what you bring to humankind, you know? And a lot of times what that really just boils down to is a shift in perspective and thought and how you're thinking about things. And the times in which we live in are just bizarre. I was walking through campus today, and I looked around, and it's an older campus. Some of the buildings are from like World War II. And I looked around and I was like, wow, I wonder what this place would have been like in like the 60s, you know? And because I've had to like ride the bus, I've had to be like in my neighborhood more and around people more, like just walking out and about. And people are just treating me so weird. And I realized that like I am a Mexican looking man. And I'm in a neighborhood that's predominantly white and predominantly high socioeconomic class. The reason that I live in this neighborhood is because it's in this really old building, and my landlord's really nice, and the rent is not expensive. But it's in a neighborhood that's full of rich white people. And I realized the reason that they're treating me this way is because of the way that I look. And it's really difficult because there are like signs around here that like Black Lives Matter and, you know, and things that posture them to be viewed in a certain way. And so that's been bothering me. And then today, when I was walking through campus, I realized, oh, I don't have to wonder what it was like to live in the 60s, because we're living in it again right now. The way that the Voting Rights Act has been gutted, the racist gerrymandering that's taken over the entire country, a white racist bigot in the executive branch of the government as the head of the United States, rounding up people that look brown and putting them into camps and deporting them, telling white South Afrikaners that they're being discriminated against and that genocide's being committed against them in a country that was under an apartheid rule until the 90s. I don't have to wonder what it was like. We're back there. Which means the apex of American progressivism really hit its zenith under Obama. And now racists have taken back the reins of power and are systematically arranging things to fuck all of us. Because while they're worried about abortions, while they're worried about white people losing power, they are systematically eroding international law, attacking the International Criminal Court, attacking independent investigators like Francesca Albanese of the United Nations, attacking the United Nations itself, not adhering to international law, withdrawing from the WHO, disregarding our allegiance to NATO, fracturing our international relations with European powers, withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord. All of these things are some of the worst things that you could possibly try to do. There are things that if you were in power, there are things that you would do if you got to power and you were an enemy of the United States. Like, they are. They do nothing but weaken international order, weaken the position of the United States, and really position Donald Trump to be able to commit a coup d'etat. I don't know why nobody's saying that. Donald Trump wants to commit a coup d'etat. On January 6th, if people were smarter and more strategic and had better weapons, they could have taken out Congress and then handed the keys of power to Donald Trump. He attempted a coup d'etat. This was not an insurrection. He almost killed the Vice President of the United States. While they were certifying the election, while almost every single member of Congress was present in one building. Like, these people are stupid in some ways and smart in some ways, but if they were really strategic and really had their shit together, it would not have been hard for them to take our government down that day. It wouldn't have been. So, but basically my point is, the arrogance of this one man, the narcissistic egotism, the racist bigotry that he's feeding into because he just wants power, all of these things are diverting attention from the things that actually matter right now, which are things like climate change, which are things like the rise of artificial intelligence and our inability to actually know what the fuck it's doing and the increasing probability that it could literally end all life on planet Earth, with the godfather of artificial intelligence and other major members of the community in artificial intelligence warning us that there's a non-zero chance of AI going rogue and causing human extinction. Like, there are much, much, much bigger problems that we need to be focused on right now, and we're focused on, like, the stupidest non-issues that could possibly exist. Yeah, I don't know. I could go on. But it's just, we need to think better, you know? We need to question these systems and, like, why they're around and what we're doing abiding by them, you know? Because, like the text, like this book that's, like, 800 years old tells us, you know? You might be mighty for right now, but even the prosperous fall. You know, I've been reading a different book about, it's called The Founders of the Middle Ages, and in it there is a Christian apologist who is living at the time in the Roman Empire, and he's really trying to make a case for Christianity. And you know what? Actually, I have the book right here. Let me see if I can find it. Yes. Yes. As Lactantius scans with the eye of prophecy the fate of the generations to come, one dreadful portent cannot escape him, the fall of the Roman state. He describes it in the hardest words he ever had to write. Quote, he wrote this in Latin, but I don't know Latin, so we're reading the English translation. Quote, the whole world will be in tumult. Wars shall rage everywhere. All nations shall be in arms and fight against each other. Neighboring cities shall go to war, and first of all Egypt shall pay the penalty of its food superstitions and be deluged with the river of blood. Then shall the sword transverse the world, mowing down all things in a harvest of destruction. And this shall be the cause of that wilderness of confusion, that the Roman name that now ruleth through all the earth, my mind shudders to say it, but I will say it because it shall come to pass. The Roman name shall be taken from the earth, and the sovereignty revert to Asia, and the East again dominate, the West to bow down. Nor should we wonder that a kingdom established on a mighty foundation, increased by the long labor of mighty men, fortified with mighty resources, should one day fall. For there is nothing built up by human strength that cannot be destroyed by human strength, since the works of mortal are mortal. Anyway, that is today's video diary. I didn't really even talk about my day, but I don't know, those are just things I've been thinking about. I think I might try putting a longer video together, like an actual, like, edited good video together about the Heike, but also kind of this, like, larger kind of idea of the impermanence of things and kind of just, like, these weird feelings that I've been dealing with lately. But I think that quote rather sums up how I feel and how we should think about our own times, because in 1,000 years, like 1,000 years will come to pass, 10,000 years will come to pass, 1 billion years will come to pass. Like, we're standing at the present time, but the future it will already come. Nothing's going to stop the march of time. And so we should cast our eyes to 500 years in the future, when the problems of today are minuscule and forgotten. But we really do stand at a point in time where whether or not millions of human lives exist or never exist is really entirely in our own hands. And I fear that these past generations are taking that responsibility from our generations, and they are shitting all over it, and they are desecrating the potential of humankind with their filthy orange, disgusting little hands. And we need to put them in their fucking retirement homes and rip the reins of power from their fucking bony hands. Because enough is enough, frankly. But anyway, that's how I feel. Let me know if you feel the same way. Today is July 20th, 2026. Yeah. Thank you for watching this if you happened to watch it this far. Goodbye.